Hello, Robert DeNiro's uses of Trump's name and other people's uses of leaders' names is to screen how and why individuals have to counter. No, in other words, the locations, areas, and states, either people helping the leaders or countering them. The difference of that was is used by criminally foreign influence too. People are forcing people to call each other names. They won't even get on paper legitimately into branch. Through administrations, they're putting fake transcripts in databases. A whole bunch of people with the intelligence community tied to a Smith family that lives near me and a Collusion family. They have roles with multiple police departments, with an O'Brien family that used to live here and a D. Simone family, and with the intelligence, foreign and domestic intelligence, and a whole bunch of retired police forms, and ones from were retired Weathersfield police chiefs. They have collusions with the World Trade Center attack, with CBS, has WFSB that won't help me. They attach me to fake conversations with themselves, and they're lying about their communications to me and telling me they're not. No, they're torturing me and extorting me. In fact, cheapening nature, therefore physically enslaving me, and I'm only allowed to tell about me. But to complain about me. But I watch them do this to others too. They have forced roles with sexual and medical offenders of kids, of elderly, of veterans. You say sexual. They even have women roles with sexual abuses of kids. You have to understand the roles with predicate acts with facts that had a breaching method, the one that is most guilty, and the differences of guilt of three branches of government associated with witch trials. For example, to keep that subject in major self-valued roles, so leaving that out from the other laws that were entrenched simultaneously. People using words like research, criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions raw, preventing people from using the hyper-evidential like black pupils, whites of eyes, unless they're going to do it to defend, like, for example, you have replaced right from James Madison communicated that he didn't have free speech during his lifetime. This was declassified. Why and how no one had free speech was declassified. Why and how they had to leave slavery, entrenched northern colonies and southern colonies, that was declassified. But the same, they had to leave it entrenched, and the breaching method was still because it was censoring everyone through everyone else, because everyone was already an extent of collusions plural, with the singular breaching method. So collusion /s, but all as /s, as all that could be discerned from by anyone. There is a means to discern more. But this instantly brings up, too, the names of the people, the sciences, wherein how these have these styles, natures of logic. For example, hyper-evidentially pretending that science had integrity that spoke for New York City, for the suburbs, America's founding locations. America's founding location at Webb House, now renamed the Webb Stevens Museum, rather. It was originally Webb House with no the. Now, see, and now they have more sense and sensibilities and narratives defending why and how they changed it and what their motivations were. And they're leaving out and replacing the motivation of the breaching method forced that place to be of significance. The breaching method that forced everyone, the human species body of individual bodies, to be systems with differences assigned to be communicated meanings and values, tactical ulterior, from how nature does. And with all exceptions in exception nature, with demonstration /us of the same thing, and of nature demonstrating it. But nature's demonstrations of that are forced, tricked, hurt, and persuaded to be blamed on other things, on others, and or on selves. And forgiveness is because where we have the means to discern The human fact should be nature breaching method, for example, that true always. What witch trials were about, with the sustained abuses of Native Americans, when they helped them and when they hurt them, and how they have them, and every A through Z already before that, of criminally foreign influence versions of ancient education before it became criminally foreign influence / hypercriminally foreign influence. So there's a quality of fact should be nature. And the agencies have rules changing and faking what's digitally recorded. The recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, involved with criminally foreign influenced and tactically delusions wrought readings of statutes and precedents. And so, in other words, increasingly there are people with Hartford Hospital, but with hospitals throughout the country. On the campus of Hartford Hospital is an Institute of Living founded in 1822. And they have roles with totally different campuses and totally different hospitals. With databases, no. And these as campuses. And this name evolved or de-evolved, criminally re-engineered from its original campus Marcias. And it's functioned by the republic for which we stand. Still standing abridged, however, because we're also supposed to stand for what is incompatible with the republic. Just because of, for example, part of nature is incompatible with itself. There are proofs. It is showing us it is more. It's probably because this is how it is demonstrably how this is showing us. It is making more of itself as it's itself one way juxtaposed with matter, one way that will not juxtapose with matter, even semi, and one way that semi will and semi won't, where we are a quality of diffusion, where more and more a trinity nature is being made. And we can discern this. There is one body that connects why and how each individual body of the human species body, of individual bodies, knows an extent of the past that is true always. Even the other animals, there are means to discern this. These are other species bodies. And grouped active. And there's like the seasons. Nature is showing us the value of the seasons before they come here. As its body, to an extent, we are shown. The seasons share an identity, where and how they appear not to comes with exception nature, and demonstration / S of the same. So just the same way the sciences share an identity, individually grouped and together. And so boxing. But makes us shush to hear. What makes no words, but long we try. Here I. In other words, boxing, martial arts, and wrestling, they share an identity. The identity that all things share, even if they are made up. It's volume science, distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously / hyper-simultaneously, is a conjunction / hyperconjunction to the finite details or to the order of the finite. And that's the difference of that. And then further, distinctly, non-distinctly, simultaneously / hyper-simultaneously, as the active group or grouped details. Note there's an extent of that which is active and grouped now. That is true. There are a bunch of truths that we know grouped by and as the body, that body of truth. That is not just the seasons. It is that body that is why and is how other species bodies are individual bodies distinct from our own. A whole bunch of individuals of an individual species body. with all group differences and demonstration of the same thing. There is one distinct identity of difference, a hyper difference, a distinct identity of simultaneous nature. We are distinct from other species bodies, but we are non-distinct from them. They have two eyes, they have limbs. Exception nature show us. What it is showing us is its identity to an extent, its identity of relationship to itself. And the only increasing value of that here for our special difference in ourselves through our hyperconjunction to it as itself, where it evaluates. We could ignore a special difference, but that's part of it's where and how it's the part we know about how, and why we are relative to positive and negative simultaneously as identity, and about how and why value is simultaneously. But there is more to this. These are three distinct identities, are hyper invisible but still discernible. Those three parts of time, for example, they are bound. I'll gather around. And so, in other words, we're going to discern this. And English was revealed to teach this. See, when we want to debate any subject, inside the nature of debate, it contains quality, aspect, and nature. That there are roles with self-value uses of that country's A through Z, where that body is sensed, including if that body is a majority of people, including if that body is an entire country when they agree about things together, and how and why, when even they agree about things together, there is complete hyperpossession over quality aspects of nature and their fact-shaping nature that is criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions raw, / hypercriminally foreign influence. And no one wants it, but everyone has self-value rules with it not fathoming. Since before America's founders were born, since before modern countries' founders were born, the same way. Right through our founders' births, they didn't have free speech. They communicated, they left it declassified for us to understand that and how and why. There was a human fact-shaping nature, torture, extortion, and slavery method entrenched, and everyone had to pretend they had free speech to an extent, even though they didn't, too. Otherwise, that body would be sensed. And that free speech itself had an extent /S of collusion /S against themselves and against everybody else, per the breaching method. And this is not debatable. But people at locations, they jump up with their nature and make things appear to be debatable. And communications over the internet, they jump in and say, oh, I don't believe that. Well, your opinion, that's mine. And then they change people what they said about predicate acts. Connecticut's Channel 3 News, for example, they made World Trade Center predicate acts, connected interstates with this. Excuse me.